The textbook call Africa a tough market. Smart operators call it a gold mine. But before we go anywhere, act number 7, the one I see Diaspora founders get dead wrong more than anything else. It silently kills cash flow. Most people do not realize it until the money is already gone. Stay for that one. Every year, well-funded brands walk into African market, spend serious money, and get quietly dismantled. Not by bigger competitors, by smaller, scrappier operators who simply understood the market and the terrain better. I've tracked those collapses, I've studied the autopsy, and I know exactly what the survivors did differently. So if you're a Diaspora founder in London, Houston, or Toronto, with capital and eyes on Africa, this is your operating manual. If you're already on the ground as an SME owner, a CEO, a marketer, or a consultant trying to figure out why the Western playbook keeps under-delivering, this is your cheat sheet. 10 growth hacks, field-tested, verifiable, things you can start deploying next week. And I've grouped them into 3 clusters. The cluster 1 is access, getting to where money actually moves. The second cluster is fit, building for how people actually buy. And the third one is velocity, executing faster than your competitor can respond. The market is not broken, your playbook is. If you're new here, I am Olawale Jimoh with 20 years building brands, startups, multinationals, disruptive campaigns across sectors, and markets that punish complacency. MSc in Marketing Management from Bournemouth University right here in the UK, and I am currently a doctoral researcher decoding African consumer behavior and trust dynamics. So when I speak on this, understand what is behind it, not think tank theory, not podcast opinion, boardroom intelligence, field data, and street level reality. All 3 simultaneously. That is what this channel is built on. Let's get into the acts. I know there are resounding voices who point to the very real challenges in African markets: infrastructural deficits, regulatory complexity, and currency volatility amongst others. They are not wrong, but every economy that ever scaled had massive problems. The harder the market, the bigger the prize for whoever breaks or cracks the code first. Africa is no different. If your strategy sounds brilliant in a deck but collapses in the market, it is not strategy, it is decoration. This playbook is built for operators. Let's start with the most foundational one, act number 1. Distribution over branding. In 20 years of building brands across sectors, the first thing I had to unlearn was this: brand building is about visibility, campaigns, messaging, and positioning. In Western markets, you build perception and the market follows. In high-grown African market, distribution is the brand. Physical presence is the marketing. Indomie did not conquer Nigeria with a marketing budget. They won it by building one of the deepest distribution networks in the market. Tolerant built a network that reached markets, kiosks, and roadside stores before most competitors had even registered a local entity. By the time competitors launched campaigns, Indomie was already in the hands of the consumer. Here is the insight: most Western brand miss completely. In mature markets, brand builds product through distribution. In infrastructure-constrained markets, distribution is the brand. If they cannot find it, they cannot buy it. If they cannot buy it consistently, they cannot trust it. And in an African market, trust is the ultimate currency. Long before Indomie, Coca-Cola wrote the definitive rulebook on distribution first expansion in African markets, the manual distribution center model. Micro distributors in dense urban zones with push carts, bikes, and small trucks doing last mile delivery. By 1999, Coca-Cola was present in every single African country. Brand awareness followed availability, not the other way around. I have spoken to Diaspora founders who spent serious money on social media campaigns targeting Lagos consumers. Beautiful content, sharp creative, zero sales. Why? Because when the consumer went to buy, the product was not there. You cannot convert awareness into revenue. Before you spend a naira, a CD, or a rand on advertising, Map your last mile distribution. Who are the final mile distributors in your category? What margin moves them? What is your replenishment cycle at the kiosk, the market store, and the neighborhood store? Get distribution logged first, then amplify with brand, not the other way around. And here is where act number 1 connects directly into act number 2, because once you know distribution is king, the next question becomes, where exactly do you put it? Act number 2, dense demand over prestige location. Transsion did not launch Techno and Itel in the premium retail corridors of Nairobi or Accra. They went straight into high-density commercial zones. Computer Village and Alaba International Markets in Lagos, Jikumba in Nairobi, and Makola in Accra. Tens of thousands of buyers per day. Informal but organized. High-velocity transactions. Low overhead on presence. The competitors were fighting for glass-fronted retail space in malls, serving 1% of the population. Transsion was already doing volume. The Western retail instinct says, go where it looks credible, where the packaging pops, where the brand is shown in the best light. That instinct will drain your capital fast. In most African markets, the operator instinct says, go where the footfall is dense, where transactions happen fast, and where informal networks do the selling for you. Prestige can come later, after your volume can fund it. While Samsung and Apple optimized for premium mall retail, Transsion branded the trade cluster itself. Computer Village in Ikeja, Lagos, most of the buildings were painted Techno Electric blue. Phone murals scaling entire walls. The brand did not enter the space, it became the architecture of the space. Same playbook in Nairobi, Accra, Kampala. 360 plus local distributors, 20 of them generating $14 million plus in annual sales each. Over 50% of Nigeria's smartphone market share. After 2 decades of building brands across sectors, one lesson keeps coming back. Your target customer does not buy where they aspire to shop. They buy where their daily route already takes them. Run a demand density audit before you sign a lease or commit to a retail partnership. Where does your category move fastest? In volume terms. What is the transaction frequency in informal zones versus formal retail? Can you build a credible presence in the informal zone before scaling into formal channels? Start where the money moves. Scale where the brand grows. Now, you have mapped the distribution. You have found dense demand, but there is still a wall between you and the consumer, and it is built by people most brands never even try to meet or talk to. That is act number 3. Partner with invisible giants. When JUMIA was scaling across West Africa, they did not build a logistics empire from scratch. They plugged into informal logistics operators who already had the routes, the relationships, and the trust of local communities. The formal infrastructure was not there, but the informal infrastructure absolutely was. Running at scale every day without a single press release. In most African markets, there is a parallel economy running alongside and often underneath what any formal business's directory will show you. Market associations, traders, cooperatives, informal credit circles, community logistics networks, these are the invincible giants. They move product, they extend credit, they enforce social contracts that no court will be fast enough to enforce. If you try to build around them, they would outlast you. If you partner with them, they will carry you. When Transsion entered Ghana, Chinese brand had a trust problem. Low quality transaction phones had soured the market. The solution was not more advertising, it was a strong partnership with local distributors who already owned community trust. In Kumasi, Ghana's second largest city, one Chinese manager alongside 70 local employees, mostly women, who understood precisely how the market moved. These distributors did not just sell phones, they vouched for the brand. Transsion assessed trust that had taken others years to build. I've seen a Diaspora founded FMCG brand bypass market women in Lagos with a clean direct-to-retail model. Good margins on paper. Within 8 months, those same women were steering customers away from the product through whisper networks. The brand had to rebuild its entire distribution model from scratch. The invincible giants may not appear in your market research report, but they will appear in your profit and loss. Before you finalize your go-to market plan. Run an informal stakeholder map. Who are the connectors in your category? What do they need? What is the cost of partnering versus the cost of being obstructed? Map them, meet them, build with them. And that's the end of the assets cluster. 3 acts that get you to where money actually moves. If you have already made one of these 3 mistakes, drop it in the comments. Distribution, location, or invisible giant. Which one caught you? And if this is resonating with you, hit subscribe now. Every episode on this channel is complete playbook. Do not miss what is coming. Now, we move into cluster B, where most brands quietly bleed out because they got access, but they got the product wrong. This is fit. And under this cluster, the first act, which is act number 4, is designed for cash flow reality. Many businesses design offers for the customer they wish they had. Winners design for how people actually buy, in smaller amounts, in irregular cycles, with real trade-offs and genuine cash flow pressure. That affects everything: your price points, pack sizes, payment options, and bundling logic. I have watched products fail in full-size only format for months, then suddenly start moving once the entry price became manageable. The product did not change, the fit did. Hindustan Unilever cracked this in rural India in the 1990s. Lower income consumers in Tamil Nadu and West Bengal wanted shampoo, soap, and detergent but could not afford the full-size bottles. They did not unlock demand by changing the product. They unlocked it by changing the format. Same quality, smaller entry point, lower cash barrier. That is what low unit packs and sachet did. The market was already there. The barrier was format. Remove the barrier today and market opens up. And that same logic shows up in African FMCG. Indomie did not build for one buyer with one wallet size. It built a pack size ladder from the Indomitables pack to large formats like Super Pack, Hungry Man, Belleful, and Relish. The point was simple: let different buyers enter at different spending levels. That is how you widen participation. That is how you create market depth. So this is bigger than pricing. This is market design. The demand may already exist. What blocks it is often not desired. It is format. Create 3 offer levels: entry, core, and bulk. If you do not have all 3, you're leaving buyers on the table. Entry is the lowest viable price point that gets someone to try. Core is your main recurring revenue driver. Bulk is your margin optimizer for loyal buyers. Design for where the customer is, not where you want them to be. Getting the pricing right gets you into the transaction, but what keeps you in it is about what you remove, not what you had. And that is act number 5. Solve friction, not features. Many founders keep adding features, more functionality, more options, more complexity. But in most African markets, customers reward the brand that reduces stress, not the one that adds to it. Consistent stock, faster delivery, simpler buying, responsive customer service, better after sales, fewer surprises. Reliability is a growth hack. Underrated, underused, devastatingly effective. A less premium operator can beat a premium competitor purely by being easier to buy from and more dependable. I've watched it happen in FMCG, in services, and in B2B. JUMIA's research revealed one critical friction: African consumers distrusted paying for goods that they had not yet received. This was not irrational, it was rational, based on lived experience of undelivered promises. The solution was not a better product, it was removing the friction: cash on delivery, local pickup hubs, and local language service. By removing payment risk alone, JUMIA grew to 68 million active consumers across 11 countries. They did not win by adding features, they won by eliminating the one thing that stopped people from buying. Write down the top 3 customer frictions in your business right now and fix at least one in the next 7 days. What stops someone completing a purchase? What makes the experience feel risky? What do consumers complain about most consistently? One friction removed is more powerful than one feature added. Fix the friction and you get the transaction. But in uncertain markets, one transaction is not enough. What makes them come back and bring others? That is about reputation. Act number 6, treat your brand as reputation liquidity. This is one of the most misunderstood competitive advantages in African markets. Brand is not image. Brand is transaction confidence. The question buyers are really asking are not buying your logo or tagline. They are asking, will this actually work? Will they actually deliver? If something goes wrong, will they answer? Will they still be here next week or next month or next year? That is why trust compounds faster than any flashy campaign. Many successful operators in African markets do not always look the best, but they feel the safest to transact with. Informal is not marginal, it is structural. Trust networks, word of mouth, and community endorsement are not soft marketing tactics, they are part of the distribution architecture. MoneyPoint proved this during Nigeria's 2023 cash scarcity crisis. While ATMs were dry and banks were dark, MoneyPoint's agent network stayed operational and merchants kept trading. That crisis did more for the brand than any campaign. 800 million plus monthly transactions in the aftermath, 10 million plus business served. What sold MoneyPoint was not features, it was the answer to one question: will they still be here when things go wrong? $1 billion valuation by 2024, time 100 most influential companies in 2025. Not by being flashiest, but by being most reliable when it mattered. So what does that kind of trust look like? When you build it deliberately, proof and testimonials that are visible and specific, a clear response time promise, and you keep it. A simple, honest guarantee, visible local presence, and a real contact. Audit your trust stack today. Where are the gaps? Plug one this week. Now, trust secures the transaction, but there's a layer before trust even kicks in, one that most diaspora operators get completely wrong, and that is in act number 7. Remember, I promised you this at the start of this video. Build for informal decision paths. Here it is, the diaspora blind spot. The buyer is not always the decision maker, and the person paying is not always the one influencing the choice. In many categories, the purchase decision is shaped upstream by family networks, retailers at the point of sale, community recommendations, trade relationships, and local social proof. If your marketing only targets the end user, you can miss every single person who actually moves the sale. I have seen campaigns target consumers directly for months with almost no movement. Then the same brand activates retailers at the point of sales and point of purchase, and their sales shift within weeks. The consumer had not changed, the influence chain had. Transsion understood that retail decision chain around phones went far beyond the spec sheet. Darker skin tones were being badly rendered by standard camera systems. That was not a niche reviewer complaint, it was a grassroots rejection signal from the people whose recommendations shape purchase. They built for the real chain of influence, not the imaginary customer avatar. Map your category full decision chain. Answer these 5 questions. Number 1, who sees the product first? Number 2, who recommends it? Number 3, who actually pays for it? Number 4, who uses it? And number 5, who decides to repeat? Draw your influence chain this week. Then ask, where are you investing your marketing? And where is the decision actually being made? If there is a gap between those 2 answers, that is where your budget is leaking. 7 acts in, 3 left, and they are the ones that separate the brands that survive entry from brands that actually scale. If this is adding value, subscribe now and share this with one person building in African market right now. They need this. That is cluster B, feed, 4 acts that close the gap between getting access and actually getting the sale. Now the final cluster, velocity. Because in these markets, the faster learner beats the bigger spender every time. Speed is not just an advantage, it is a strategy. Act number 8, speed beats perfection. Too many teams spend months perfecting strategy nobody has tested in the real market yet. By the time they launch, the window has moved. Winning operators test faster. One area, one offer, one channel, one message, one metric. Then they learn. Then they improve. Then they scale. The market rewards learning speed, not launch perfection. Opera spent 13 years in Nigeria before Opera exploded. When Opera moved, it moved with precision because the ground had already been tested. When Opay launched, it was not a bet, it was a verified playbook. By June 2019, a launch offer for ride-hailing at 100 naira flat within months. Whole Ride was doing 100,000 rides daily, more than competitors who had been in market for years. The lesson here is not to be slow. It is when you move with precision, because you have already tested the ground. Run a 14-day micro test, one product, one zone, one message, one success metric. Not a steering committee review, a real field test. Then scale what works and kill what does not immediately. Speed wins the early game, but sustaining that speed, especially when infrastructure pushes back, requires honing the thing that protects your revenue. That is Act 9. Hone your critical bottleneck. Every business has one weak link that quietly kills growth before it can even start. It might be the delivery, stock replenishment, power supply, field rep coverage, payment collection, or customer follow-up, or even after-sales support. You do not have to hone everything, but you must identify the one bottleneck you cannot safely outsource. The single layer that protects your revenue. Tolaram did not build power plants and logistic fleets because they wanted to. They did it because they could not afford to let those layers fail. Controlled production and controlled delivery remove the single biggest threat to revenue continuity. Draw your growth chain today and circle the single point of failure. What is the one thing that, if it breaks, stops revenue flowing? Do you own it, or is it someone else's hands? What would it cost you to own it versus what does it cost when it fails? You have protected the bottleneck. Now, the final edge, the one that separates businesses running on hope from the ones running on intelligence. Act number 10, build a local feedback loop. Slow businesses review strategy quarterly. Winning businesses listen to the market weekly. By the time your dashboard tells you something is wrong, the street already knew and acted. You need a direct feedback system from the front line. Sellers, store owners, agents, customer service staff, delivery riders, and field marketers. That is where the truth lives. Traction embedded local research and development in African markets. Because market truth cannot be outsourced to headquarters. One specific method worth naming is mystery shopping. Walk into your own stores as a customer. Experience how your staff engage and treat customers, how they handle questions, how they resolve problems. Then do the same with your competitors. In relationship-driven markets, service delivery is often a differentiator that pricing can never overcome. Set a weekly 30-minute market truth call with 3 frontline people. Ask only 3 questions. Number 1, what is moving? Number 2, what is slowing us down? And number 3, what are customers actually complaining about? Book the first 1 week, then go mystery shop your own business and one competitor. The answers will tell you more than any quarterly report. Let's bring this home. The brands winning in African markets are not winning despite the complexity. They are winning because of it, because they took the time to understand the terrain while everyone else was writing postmortems. Indomie and Tolaram, nearly $1 billion in revenue. Traction, $9.6 billion in 2024 and over 50% smartphone market share in Nigeria. MoneyPoint, $1 billion valuation, 800 million monthly transactions. Opay, 100,000 rides a day within months of launch. These are not outliers, they are proof of concept for the exact playbook we just walked through. 3 counterintuitive takeaways to leave you with. 1. Distribution before brand. If people cannot find you and buy from you easily, your messaging does not matter, not yet. 2. Brand as a reputation liquidity. In uncertain markets, trust converts faster than aesthetics, always. And number 3, speed beats perfection. The faster learner beats bigger spender every time. The opportunity is real, the price is enormous, but it only responds to operators who understand the terrain. And you now have the map. One question for the comments: which of these 10 acts hit hardest for you? The invisible giants, the informal decision part, or the local feedback loop? Drop it below. I read every single one of them. And the comments on this channel are worth reading, because the people watching are not spectators, they are operators. If this shifted how you see the market, subscribe, because Next episode, we go into the 6th strategy that quietly killed diaspora-led African brands abroad. If you made it to the end of this video, that episode was built specifically for you. Do not miss it. Hi, I'm Olawale Jimoh. This is GidiGrit. Let's get gritty. See you next week. Cheers. Bye.